Welcome, welcome, welcome. How is it going? We are back. The RambleCast has returned. This is the first episode of 2025, otherwise known as January 8th. Had to look up at the top of the screen to find that one. So, I'm your host, Cody Toombs, and with me I have Corbin Davenport.
Hi.
We have a shockingly full topic list, despite Corbin's insistence that we keep it short. So yeah.
Well, but this will be a speed run. Yeah, but I got stuff to do, and I'm tired, and I'm cold and hungry. So I could have taken care of some of those things already, but it didn't happen.
I would argue that if you had just chosen a state that is less prone to being cold, you could have taken care of one of those a long time ago.
Well, I mean, really, there won't be any states that get cold soon, so I don't have to fix that problem. It's being solved for me. It's called delegating. Look it up.
True. Well, not true enough. Just, it's a thing.
Corbin's got a hot date. Yes, I have a hot date with a long PDF document of crap I need to read.
Sexy.
Austin said Greenland is cold. Yeah, the upcoming 51st state.
Oh,
that's a lie. It won't be a state. It'll be a territory. We can't let them vote.
Exactly. Yeah, I almost want to ask, like, do they have like a right-leaning voting record or something? I really don't get it. But okay, anyway. Let's I guess narrowly dodge getting into that stuff, because oh boy, could that be turned into all kinds of a conversation. But yeah. Instead,
it was I will say, and I'll say this and then we can move on, it has definitely been a weird vibe this week in yes. technology, where it's like yeah, there's this like big show thing going on, all these tech announcements, and then like at the corner of your eye, you see Trump, the incoming U.S. president wants to take Canada and Greenland, and it's like, okay, all right, I need to look back over here. This not good vibes happening this week. I have to say, the vibes are off tremendously. So that's where I am this week.
Corbin's vibe check is tainted.
Vibe check is off. We gotta quit.
The
I'm quitting this week. Just I need to start next one.
the cursed vibe checks. Yeah, but there has been a tech show going on. Not gonna lie, I've tried to look through stuff, and wow, did I just hit a wall with, oh god, the boredom, oh god. Look, maybe it's because I've watched enough CES stuff over the years and kind of been just jaded about it. But a lot of what comes out, I just don't have much interest in. And a lot of it, frankly, is, hey, we made something we made before, but we made it a little bit smaller, a little bit bigger, a little bit thinner, a little bit faster, a little bit less overheaty, you know, a little sharper, a little duller. I don't know. Like, it's always our old products, but slightly enhanced, and usually with whatever the latest trend is.
Yeah. This was another CES of just kind of like some nonsense, a couple of like kind of interesting things, and a lot of iteration. Like this is always this like there's a lot of PC stuff, but a lot of the PC stuff was just like Intel made a slightly better CPU, so now every company that makes a laptop is updating their laptop with a slightly better CPU, and that's like half the announcements.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I did pick up on two things that interested me a little bit. They interest me a lot, but I only find them minimally interesting. I don't know. Corbin may have his own take or interest on this or on specific things, but the first one that jumped into my view, and I mean, this is the quickest of mentions, but I think it's neat that they're doing this. JBL is coming out with a set of headphones that uses in the past, they've come out with some earbuds that have a smart case with a touchscreen. And it's not the, it's not the most special thing in the world, but it is kind of neat. It can be very useful, and depending on how you do your listening. Anyway, they're now coming out with a pair of headphones that use the same, I don't want to call it an OS, but they use the same like software, and they put it into basically a little dongle that you can carry or have with you or whatever. And it does some neat stuff, like it has basically a pass-through where it can act as a transmitter. You plug this into a 3.5 millimeter jack, and it will transmit to the headphones. It has controls on here, so if you can basically change like your active noise cancellation and stuff like that for the headphones without taking them off or fiddling with buttons on the headphones. It's it's little things, but they're neat to me, and I like that it's a feature that they're doing more with it. There's still, in my opinion, a lot that they could do with the software for this thing. I've actually given a ton of feedback to their PR people. I don't know if they'll make use of any of it, but I hope so. And I do hope that they will be sending me one of these to review, and I hope I get to review them. And Kirby's saying, why can't they do it in an app? They do. You can do all of the same stuff using the app on your phone, but The catch is you want to have uh, this is the sort of thing that you can just have sitting on your desk, or carry in your pocket or whatever, without having to open an app. Um, be, it,
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things where uh, the advent of wireless headphones required reinventing a lot of things that we figured out like 30 years ago.
mm-hmm.
And one of those things with wired headphones was you can just have the controls on the cable.
Yep.
And I have several pairs of Apple earbuds that do that. But we can't do that when there's no cable, so we have to create like some other weird solution.
Yeah, and the thing is, don't get me wrong. I I think generally speaking, controlling stuff in an app is the better thing. But once, like, for that's good for setup. The setup experience is good. Or if you can have something like, admittedly, iPhone does this really well with the AirPods. If when you pull it up in your phone, you're never more than, let's say, 2 taps away from being able to do any of the settings. The fact of the matter is, if you've used an app to control settings on your earbuds for just any other company that does not have like built-in features on your phone, it's usually a lot of taps. And they're, depending on how well the app is written, a lot of the times those taps are slow. Like, it takes time to communicate over Bluetooth with the headphones, get your settings back, and be able to start making changes. It's not the biggest thing, but it's kind of annoying. I've reviewed enough earbuds in the past that, look, I'll tell you, I don't actually like using their apps once. Like, for setup, it's great. Once the setup is done, I hate using their apps. This is the sort of thing where you get those, like Corbin said, in the wire controls without having to pull out your phone and maybe stop what you're doing on your phone so that you can just tap a button to go to the next song, or to change your ANC settings or whatever. Like, that's something and again, not everybody wants this. But I certainly like it sometimes, and I'm sure there are other people who actually really enjoy this. Austin, this will end up in the washing machine or dryer. How many times have you washed your earbuds? To me, it feels like something that I would usually have this. Well, yeah, I would put this into like a jacket pocket, maybe pants pocket, but it's not so small that you don't feel it before you throw it in there. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't think that's that bad of a design. And again, it's not for everybody. It's for the people who want the in-the-wire control sort of experience. Okay, and the other thing, and I mentioned this in Discord, Ugreen, who just got into the NAS industry this last year, they came out with a NAS that has AI built in, which is, that's a little bit of a hokey statement, but they announced it, I believe it was today. I'm pretty sure their official announcement was today. Maybe some of this stuff was already out, but
I think it was, yes, I want to say it was Monday.
They might. The thing is, I think their announcement was today, but I think all of the details went public earlier. I'm not really clear on it, but I saw the 8th was one of the dates that they had. Anyway, when I first read about this, it sounded like they just put an LLM into it, and that it was basically just going to be a built-in chatbot, and I didn't really see much of a purpose for this, but I figured maybe it'd be interesting. Since then, they've come out with some of the additional details, and I'm not going to say that this is a particularly wonderful use for it yet. It definitely is still a little bit hypey, but it definitely does have a built-in chatbot, which, okay, whatever. They have a so-called magic box, which is, uh, I I guess this is just other features that it's your typical LLM stuff, but maybe a little bit more function oriented. They have meeting summarization. Look, that again, that's typical LLM junk. And then they have smart tags, which is for file management. And that actually is kind of interesting enough that I'm curious what they're doing with it and what they are making it do. So I apparently it can look at the content of your files, figure out what kind of things it is, and I guess do some automatic sorting or help you find things. Presumably make files more like searchable. So, uh, look, I think a lot of this stuff is probably going to be AI slop. It's going to be junk. But this actually has the potential to be pretty interesting. Maybe. Does the AI phone home or only on device? So this is presumably all on device. They made a point of hyping up. Let's see, it's somewhere on this page. There we go. An AI processor, of course, because everybody's got to talk up the use of whatever processor has some sort of AI cores. But it's using an Intel Core Ultra 5. It is, yeah, Intel's whatever latest model that, of course, has built-in AI support. So logically, all this stuff is happening on device, and since this is happening on a NAS, it's plugged into the wall. So it's fine if it, turns up the processor a bit. It can grind on stuff. It can do some preemptive like logic. That kind of thing, if done correctly, could make this reasonably fast, reasonably efficient, and presumably fairly useful, as long as like you're uploading files and giving them time to be processed. And then of course you can use them as however you'd use them. So yeah, these are the two things, again, because I've reviewed products from both of these companies. I noticed these and it's like, all right, I kind of look forward to at least reviewing these, and maybe, maybe these will be really good. Maybe they'll be junk. I haven't figured that out yet, but I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of, but like, I think this is probably one of the more realistic advantages for large language models for normal people is the ability to sort and organize data in a way that was much more annoying to do with other methods. Like, this isn't like really a. This is where the like generative AI and machine learning categories kind of cross over, because a lot of the stuff was already on Mac, like 5 years ago with Spotlight, where Spotlight like tries to tag files and it will like read text inside of images and add that to like its search index and that kind of stuff. So it sounds like that's basically what this is, but combined with sort of some summarization stuff. Wow. So yeah, like I agree. Like, I don't know if the chatbot thing is necessarily useful, but like if the LLM is like there and it's designed to take in messages, like sure, that's essentially just a free add-on. But yeah, I think there's a lot of potential for organization like this and scanning documents and maybe background converting some of those into a format that is more useful for these LLMs. There's a lot of stuff you can do here. Definitely not like as useful as just having it like on the desktop PC you're using, because the NAS would only be like interacting with whatever files you have on it. But yeah, Seems cool. And if the hardware is there, then presumably they can keep updating this with like the pretty significant improvements that local LLMs get like every 6 months. Um, because that's been one of the things I've kind of like been looking at recently is I don't really care about like the super advanced stuff because that all needs like GPU farms or
Hmm.
servers. But it is interesting to see the heavily compressed ones show up that are capable of running on much crappier PCs and phones. Um, like I was playing with the IBM Granite model, I think it was called, and they made a version that I believe is 1 or 1.5 million parameters, which means it can run very fast and with about like basically no RAM. I think it was like a gig of RAM, maybe not even that. And like, yeah, it was kind of stupid, but it was also impressive. And that's the stuff that's going to keep getting better and would benefit stuff like this.
Hmm. Um, and right now, I don't, I wouldn't anticipate the software experience being particularly wonderful. In fairness, they do have uh, obviously apps that they've built themselves that'll interact with their own hardware. And so, you know, how those apps can possibly be accessible, or sorry, what you might be able to access through a phone could be possibly interesting. Um, and going really quickly because I like I said, I didn't want to spend a lot of time on these, but there was obviously a discussion in Discord about this, and I apologize for I forget who said it, but somebody brought up that uh, this is an interesting thing to have in the home. Like it's interesting to have possibly a piece of hardware that is like your AI box that's just on your network and does AI processing for you. And somebody else mentioned, "Hey, that's nice, but the big companies that are capable of this stuff would never want to do it because they want to sell you a subscription." I'm going to throw a bit of a uh, monkey wrench into that one. I fully agree. All the companies would love to do that, but they would just as much love to sell you hardware that you have to pay a subscription to use. Basically, the TiVo model. TiVo obviously was technically useful by itself, but it basically ceases to be useful if you don't also pay for their the TV guide listing feature or whatever it was, which they grossly overcharged for. But that's how it could do automatic recording. That's how it could do like intelligent, hey, we recorded these episodes, you want only stuff that comes after this, etc., etc. Like you otherwise you had to manually schedule everything and control this thing very, very manually. I could 100% see that becoming the business model for not all the companies necessarily, but certainly some of them. And this business model exists now. I mean, go get a Nest Cam and tell me how much you want to use that thing without paying for the Nest Aware subscription or whatever the Nest subscriptions are. I forget their names, but almost every security camera from a major company is designed around the idea that you also have to pay their subscriptions. And security cameras are obviously a bit different because they're actually, you know, kind of a type of hardware that it has to be that type of hardware. But I could see AI in the home being kind of the same thing. And I could absolutely see a lot of companies saying, hey, this is a genius idea because we then don't have to pay the power bill to serve the AI needs of such and such home. Meanwhile, we can still
Mm-hmm.
charge them just as much.
Yeah, I mean, also the same model as like Photoshop. Like Photoshop is a thing that's fully running on my computer, but like the subscription is supposed to go towards maintaining it and updating it. Um,
Uh, I don't know. think of that differently because it is a software subscription that, like you said, it is aimed at paying for continual improvements to the software, which, yeah, there's no denying it. Adobe it doesn't necessarily cater or doesn't necessarily serve the updates to a software like it used to. And their additional charges for like tokens to use their generative AI, that actually is at least happening on their servers. So far, as much as I hate defending Adobe, I think at least those subscriptions are sort of justified. Sort of. Minimally.
Yeah, but I mean, I see in their page here they mention the AI NASs are using a Intel Core Ultra 5 125H, which is one of the laptop chips, so it'd be a little bit better with power usage, and it does have combined computing power of up to 34 tops, and I think the standard for Windows Copilot PCs is 45, so that's pretty close to like the local AI abilities you're getting in the newer computers, and presumably this would be doing less because it's just working with like files and whatever else is on the NAS, and it's okay if it takes a while.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is that with anything on your PC, there's probably a greater urgency to getting something done as quickly as possible. Whereas with the NAS, chances are you could just be sending files to it, but you could also be using this for other purposes. But yeah, if you're just sending files to it or leaving it as kind of like your in-home server, 9 times out of 10, you don't have urgency with the thing you're doing. You kind of just send the files, walk away, and next time you come back, you want whatever processing to be done. But yeah, in home, you get your files, you load them up, and you probably want it done like that. You want it ready to go, which your PC's probably not actually going to be able to do.
Yeah, there's probably going to be less urgency with the task this is being used for, and also the NAS is plugged in 24/7.
Yeah.
So it's also got that.
Yeah, which your Copilot laptop probably is not. And when it's not, I'd be willing to bet it also doesn't do a lot of those operations quite as fast anyway. Anyway, so yeah, enough of this. These, like I said, these are just things that I thought were interesting, and again, from companies that I've already worked with. So was there anything, Corbin? I know I didn't really suggest this to you before, but was there anything that jumped out at you that you personally thought was interesting or wanted to jump on?
I mean, not really. It's good that Ugreen is still working on their NASs, and they appear to be pretty good. And things are looking up for NAS competitors in that more and more stuff is switching to Docker. So it doesn't matter what box you're running it on. It doesn't care. It's running its own Linux kernel. So there's a little bit more opportunity for other companies to try making their own boxes.
Yes, there is. So I guess in that case, we can move on to the GPU madness that has befallen CES. And we'll just start off with the obvious one, NVIDIA. They've announced their RTX 50 series. Corbin, you wrote more about this and read more about this than I did for sure, so I'll let you do the intro.
Yeah, I mean, so we've got several GPU things. I don't have much to say about any of them. I'm pretty far disengaged from this world. My gaming PC still has a 1080, and it's gonna stay in there probably until it dies. And then I'm playing anything somewhat recent on my Xbox. So I'm pretty far out of this world. It seems like these have pretty good performance gains across the board. I know some of the more specific points that Nvidia brought up uh, are still kind of in the air. Like they were mentioning some specific performance benchmarks that would maybe only be possible with some of their frame gen stuff. Um, so we're probably gonna have to wait for real world testing on a lot of these. But yeah, generally more powerful. Obviously, faster AI performance is a big thing here. They were also showing some other similar tech improvements with new RTX features, and yeah. So they've got the 5090, which will start at $2,000, and the 580 is $1,000. Oh, wait, did I read that? Oh, that's a big price jump. The 5080 is 1,000. The 5090 is 2,000. Wow. Okay. And then the 570 is 749, and the five. Oh, sorry. Wow. I can't. They put this in the worst possible formatting, and it's tripping me up. The 5070 is 549. 570 Ti is 749. And then it jumps up to $1,000 for the 580 and $2,000 for the 590. So, yeah. And of course, like, there's going to be a slow trickle of all of the customized manufacturer versions. So some of those will probably eke out a little bit more performance. But yeah.
Oh boy. There's the prices are aggressive. There's
Yeah, these are just very expensive and very power hungry. Like part of the reason my gaming PC still has a 1080 is that putting anything newer in it, first of all, a lot of these just would not physically fit.
yeah.
Because I have a small form factor case. So I don't know if like any modern GPU would fit in that thing anymore. Maybe like a 560, like the lowest end thing. And then also the power usage for all these have gone up dramatically. So I would need to buy a new power supply as well, because I'm still rocking, I think it's a 470 watt PSU in my gaming PC. Yeah, but it's like that's fine for what it's doing. I've never had an issue. But yeah, like we all decided to stop doing power efficiency in PC land. So now I need like a little like nuclear power plant to go with my GPU. So that's why it's been the same.
Yeah, no, that makes some sense.
And also I work on a Mac now because I want better for myself.
Exactly. So yeah, I as much as I want to build a gaming rig, I also look at some of this and it's like, oh boy, I do not want to, I don't want to compete with these prices. And I know obviously you can build from older generations where the prices are also sinking a bit, but yikes. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that was the Nvidia stuff. AMD, of course, also showed up, and they're here with the 9070 series. They're of course hyping up their AI-powered FSR 4 technology, and so this is basically more of the same, right?
Well, this one was weird because AMD had their CES presentation, and they just didn't mention GPUs at all. But then everyone published stuff about the new GPUs
because that's what everyone cares
at
about.
that time. Well, they sent what I guess was like an embargo about these GPUs, and they told people that it was going to be in the presentation, and the embargo lined up with the presentation. So the presentation happened, but there was no GPUs. But then everyone's like articles and videos came out. So no one seems to know what happened there. But yeah, they have the new RX 9070 XT and 9070 coming in first quarter. Not a lot of details yet. Again, because they didn't talk about it in the presentation that they did. They mostly just talked about CPUs and I think something else. But yeah, it's kind of the same thing here. We'll have to see what the real world performance is, but it looks like a decent upgrade from their previous designs. And yeah, they were talking about improvements to FSR, which is their upscaling and frame generation tech. Yeah. So have to see how that does, because I think AMD's solution is generally regarded as worse than NVIDIA's frame gen, but don't get mad at me if I'm wrong. Again, I don't pay super close attention to this world at this moment.
Yeah, it's kind of hard too, because there's and outside of gaming, which obviously is a big deal, but outside of gaming, there's not a lot you can do with that technology. And a lot of games aren't even making heavy use of it. So, and it could theoretically be used in, let's say, video editing or something like that, or well, rather video rendering. But as far as I'm aware, none of the NLEs even make use of this stuff yet. So, obviously someday down the road they might, but maybe not, because you're leaving a lot up to the video card to do, where your NLE might actually have its own approach, which is very likely better, probably looks better. So yeah, I don't know that I would necessarily make too many bets on seeing this useful outside of gaming.
Yeah. Kirby said the 9070 XT only has 16 gigs of video RAM and is supposed to trade blows with a 4080 Super. Okay, yeah, so AMD is still kind of like trailing behind NVIDIA generally, but
like a half to a full generation behind.
Yeah. But, if the pricing is right, then that's fine.
Yeah.
They can continue to be the slightly more affordable thing.
And at least judging by the Verge article, it does not appear that they gave pricing information. So,
no.
Yeah, not the greatest announcement.
Even when we do get pricing, you have to see like what the sales turn into.
Yeah.
Because some of this stuff, it doesn't actually stay at MSRP for very long.
No, and nor should it. But okay, and because of course we may as well, let's wrap up the GPU talk with the one company whose GPUs literally no one cares about. And
that's mean.
I mean, someone want to tell me I'm wrong? Anyone? I'm waiting for Austin to pop up with the. Well, actually, there is this one case, but
yeah. So Intel, I don't know when the first cards were, but Intel for a while has been trying to sell its own dedicated graphics cards under the ARC name, which is also the name they use for some of their integrated graphics. So it's a little bit confusing, but. They were making some decent cards for a while, but it's all on the low end. And there was, I think it might have been the Intel CEO saying it, but there were people at Intel saying like, Yeah, we're probably gonna stop doing this. It's not really working out. um, and then like they came out with a new generation of the cards, and those are actually pretty good, especially for the pricing. And Intel has a new CEO because the last one sucked, and uh, now Intel is saying that quote, "We are very committed to the discrete graphics market and will continue to make strategic investments in this direction." Quote. And you know, this is Intel saying this, who I would say normally would not want to give the impression that the thing they're selling to consumers is about to be killed off, but that's what they were doing a couple months ago because
Yeah.
they've made a lot of stupid decisions. Um, so now they're kind of just operating in the default where like if someone asks a company like, "Hey, are you going to kill off this thing you're making and selling right now?" Every single company is like, "No, of course not. We're fully dedicated to this. We would never do something like that. We care about our customers." Um, so I would still feel uh, iffy
Wary.
about buying one myself because even if the current GPUs are pretty good, if in 6 months they decide no, actually we are done, um, then future games working on an unsupported architecture is kind of a mixed bag, especially because Arc is already like kind of a weird and not fully supported architecture, especially in the way it handles older games. So, you know, I'd like to see a couple more generations of this, or at least like a more firm commitment to a product map, saying like, here's what we're doing for the next 5 to 10 years. Um, but this is better than no, actually we're done, which is what they were doing a couple months ago.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. I'm getting ever since you started mentioning that other companies trying to keep people from thinking that they're killing something. I started getting flashbacks to that time that I was sitting in the audience at Google I/O and somebody asked, "Hey, so what's the story with tablets? Are you gonna kill them, or like is Android just done with
Yeah.
tablets?" And just watching them squirm on stage as they're trying to answer this, ultimately saying, "No, we're not done with tablets at all. Why would you think that?" And you could just tell they were all sitting there like, who here's worked on tablets? You? Anyone? No one here's worked on tablets in a year and a half. Yeah, okay, we're definitely killing it. Like you could tell, they clearly had no answer. And yeah, part of me does wonder if that's what's sort of happening here, but yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I've said this many times, but like it would be a lot better for everyone if like Intel was actually competitive in anything. Um, but it's really struggled with that. So if they can turn it around with the new CEO and something and anything else they've done, that'd be good. But um, I'm not overly confident,
I don't
and I would
anticipate.
not buy an RGP right now.
No,
I
definitely
would
not.
I would I would buy like an old budget AMD card before this.
Honestly, you could probably get that cheaper anyway, or well, maybe same price, but it's going to be a better card. So yeah. Um, but yeah, sir, I could see this being something that's interesting to watch, and from that angle, uh, we'll see. It'll be interesting how they move forward. I'm not holding a lot of hopes though. Uh, but in general, that's also where I look at a lot of Intel stuff right now. There's too much of a we'll see in that whole equation. Um. Okay, so moving on. Uh, I know normally I would have taken the next spot and everything, but I guess Corbin did bring up the point that a lot of this stuff was CES, so I think I'm gonna move the Dell thing next, just because it's so quick and so easy. So
Okay.
yeah, Dell has decided to kill off the XPS line and do a whole bunch of renaming. Um,
Yeah. So Dell currently has a lot of brand names for their computers. Some of them are XPS. They have laptops and desktops under XPS. Um, they have like Inspiron. They have uh, I forget. They have a bunch of other labels. And they all kind of blend together and are confusing. So they've quite reasonably decided they needed to change that. Unfortunately, they've done it in a way that is probably about as dumb. They this I don't know if this is an improvement or not. Um, and with the context that the XPS is probably like Dell's only like popular consumer brand, like that's really
yeah.
the only thing I see from them that like normal people talk about. Um,
Unless you want to count
Obviously,
Alienware, but
yeah, that's yeah, it's a different thing, which they're keeping. They're not getting rid of Alienware.
oh, they should.
Uh, yeah. So now they have. Let me make sure I get this right because this is very dumb and confusing. Um, so they now have the Dell Pro 14 and 16, which are kind of just your standard Windows laptops. They're not like 2-in-1s or anything. Bog standard computer grade. Then that goes up. Oh, I'm sorry. They have. See, I'm already getting this mixed up. Yeah. So they have the Dell Pro 14 and Pro 16, which are normal laptops, and they also have the uh, Dell 14 Plus and 16 Plus 2-in-1. 2-in-1 being convertible laptop design. Then they have the Dell Pro Max, which is better internal hardware, but a little bit other better hardware. Then it goes to the Dell Pro Premium. I'm sorry, the Dell Pro 13 Premium and Dell Pro 14 Premium. And then there's also a Dell Pro 13 Plus and Dell 14 Plus, Dell Pro 16 Plus. So we're doing the Pro Plus. So yeah, this is dumb. I'm sorry, you made this worse. I think this is worse. I mean, I don't know if this is worse because what they did previously before this was like they had a XPS like 13 and 16 like based on the screen sizes, and then like all of their other computers were like gibberish numbers. But even with the XPSs, they had like the one I have from several years ago is the XPS 13 9370, and that the last part is the model number they would iterate. So there's still a hidden model number with all of these. None of these are like iterating based on the generation or year, which I think would be a massive improvement in talking about these. That's something that like we just have collectively decided to do with phones and cars, but not laptops. Because Apple also does is they have just the MacBook Pro. So then like when you talk about it, you have to say like, oh, it's the MacBook Pro with the M4 Max, or oh, it's the late 2019 MacBook Pro Intel. So
Yeah, we didn't talk about that ahead of time, but I will give Apple partial credit on this one because in the old days it was you had to look at the year, and you might even have to have like early 2020 2029, late 2029. You might possibly have the year and some sort of an descriptor to segment it from possibly 2 updates in a year. That was messy. They at least now have, here's the model, here's the size, and which M series chip came in it.
Right. Now
This is better.
they're only updating it when they have new chips in it, and the chips are in the name.
Yeah.
So yeah, that does help a little bit. But yeah, I just feel like when you get to the point where you're naming, where if I'm going to a Best Buy and they're like, here, would you like to purchase the Dell Pro Plus? No. Please stop. I don't even know, like, there's not a clear like tier system here either. Like, at least, I think the current iPhone naming scheme is also not that great, but there is kind of a consistent pattern of like we're adding a word each time. So there's the iPhone 15, the iPhone 15 Plus or Pro, and then the Pro Max, and each of those are sequentially better than the last one. So like there's a little bit of a method to the madness here, but this is just more confusing. And because they're not putting the year or another model name like in it still, if I'm referring to a specific laptop, it's going to be like the Dell Pro Max some numbers. So I don't know. I think they made this worse. I don't know. I don't think this was worth throwing out the XPS brand, which has been pretty strong, even though I don't really know who should have been buying the last few XPS laptops, because every time I saw one, I thought they were really stupid.
The people buying them or the laptop? Don't answer that.
The laptops, no, the people. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes they're just ignorant, and you can't make fun of them for that. They walk into the Best Buy, they see the only pretty laptop because everything else is made by Asus or something.
Yeah.
And they pick the laptop that has the fake function row keys and the like one USB-C port. Yeah, it's sad.
Mm-hmm.
Also costs $2,000.
Yeah. I don't know. Part of me hears this and I think they kind of made, I don't want to say the right choice because oh crap, is it just clearly not. But I do kind of see at least why they did this, and I think it makes sense. Because no, if you walked up to somebody and said, "Hey, do you want to buy a Dell Inspiron?" They're gonna look at you and go, "Who? What?" Nobody knows that name. And granted, it's an Inspiron, so it's for the business or business corporate office segment. So normal people probably shouldn't know that. And if you walk up to somebody and say, "Hey, what Dell should regular customers buy?" The average person is going to go, I don't know. You go to the website and just pick something, right? And I don't know if this is still the case because I haven't gone to Dell's website in probably a decade. But I remember the brief time I worked at Dell, you actually could, if you were a consumer, accidentally find your way into Inspirons instead of the XPS line. So I could kind of see why XPS is a brand that maybe you do want to keep around, but maybe you don't. Whereas what they did here, they normalized and basically picked out such generic names that they are very obvious when, or, well, did it?
They're not.
What would be the business line, or is there even a business line anymore?
No, these are I think these are all the laptops they're gonna sell.
Yeah.
Like they're not doing like separate
Okay.
other product lines. It's all in this.
All right. So the thing is, and there's probably no reason to have a separation like there used to be. But yeah, I'm not sure that there was really a reason to have that separation. So, now it's as simple as you're going to go buy one of these. The size of the screen is built into the name, which, whatever. Otherwise, their intent is kind of conveyed through the name. To an extent. Pro and premium and plus are meaningless terms. So I don't know that that's useful at all. but their old naming scheme wasn't very good either. So I don't know. I'm not seeing that this is a. I'm not seeing that this is an improvement, and I'm not sure that it's a downgrade. It just seems more annoying. And it's
I think
it's
it's
an annoyance that we're probably not going to care about in a year or two.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I think this is maybe slightly worse than what they had.
Oh yeah, the
If
odd
for no other
plus.
reason, yeah, like if for no other reason that there was kind of a more clear line between the sort of more flashy ultrabook consumer stuff and the more like, boring business laptop stuff. So yeah, I don't know. Um, I'm sure some marketing person was paid a lot to come up with this, and I think it's pretty silly.
Actually, aren't the ultrabooks just the quote unquote premium?
Yeah, I believe that's the intention.
Okay.
Well, they show the Zenit article
Jesus,
has a
the
picture of the Dell
pros just
Pro.
look exactly like MacBooks.
Yeah, I was looking at the Dell Pro 14. That's definitely an ultrabook because that looks almost identical to the XPSs. That's the design they've had for a while with the touchpad that spans the entire bottom part and then the fake touch bar thing on the top. Which I hate both of those things. That's awful. I don't like the invisible trackpad because like there's still an edge to the trackpad. You just can't feel it anymore.
Okay, yeah, that's
Uh,
dumb.
Eventually the pointer stops working.
That's
And
so
then yeah,
bad.
like you don't get the physical. Like that whole function row is capacitive touch. So
Oh my god.
no,
That's the
yeah, I
worst.
know.
That is
This
the
is what
actual
I've been
worst
saying.
design.
I was complaining about the past few XPSs for doing this. Like I don't my XPS 13, which I think this was a 2017 or 2018. Um, Still got my Google I/O 2019 sticker on it. Um, but this also was kind of dumb, but it was like a little bit more reasonable. Um, the main dumb thing Dell did with this one is the screen is a fingerprint magnet, and they put the webcam on the bottom. This was in that brief like
Oh
two periods
yes.
where all the PC makers were like, we need no
Zero
bezel,
bezel.
but where do you put the webcam? Okay, we're putting it at the bottom, and like a bunch of companies did that, and it was dumb, and they decided to stop doing that like 2 years later. But
Yep. Also known as the boob cam.
yeah, no, it's awful. But my laptop does have it is better than this computer I'm looking at right now because it does in fact have a headphone jack, which I believe these don't
Oh
have.
no. No, someone's
Um,
not putting a headphone jack in a laptop.
yeah, and I have a physical power button and physical function keys on this computer and on my MacBook. So yeah, I've been they started they started really messing up the XPS laptops a couple years ago, and it's confounding because no one else really tries to make cool looking Windows laptops. Lenovo just goes for very like Batman black laptops for the most part, and I don't know what Asus is doing anymore.
I'm blown away right now. I'm really I can't get over the idea that this might not have a headphone jack.
The last two XPSs didn't.
Oh no.
Um,
See,
I
I admit I don't pay attention to Dell product lines at all, but wow, this is concerning.
I'm gonna find out. Do they have the product pages for any of these live yet? I wonder.
I kind of doubt it. I don't know. For
Oh,
the
I will
CD
say
they
one thing they mentioned in the press release, and I did see I'm on the sysadmin Reddit community because there's occasionally some smart stuff there that I don't see elsewhere. And the people over there were getting very excited over one thing in these computers, which is a modular USB-C port. So now, when the USB-C ports on these laptops get broken, which according to the sysadmin people happens constantly
Oh,
with a lot of
geez.
laptops, they can just swap them out. It's just a little board. So that's cool.
I mean, that's nice, but
Yeah.
see,
Also, I think the RAM is still glued to the computer.
of course it is.
So you
Looks like they do
take
have the Dell Pro line in their page.
okay.
So
Yeah, I'm
Dell
looking at
Pro
it now.
14 Premium, is that what we're... No, the Dell 14 Pro. Or Dell Pro 14. Okay, so there's a Premium, the Plus. Here, I'll get this
The
on
the
screen.
the Pro Premium has real function keys and a real touchpad. So this looks normal. This looks like a MacBook Pro.
Oh, hey, they didn't announce it, but there's a Dell Pro Rugged 14.
Mm,
So they have a rugged line.
yeah.
I don't see a regular Dell Pro 14 in here.
Hmm.
So the baseline Pros, I guess, aren't available. It's either the Premium or Plus.
Yeah.
Um,
All these look normal to me. I'm not seeing the one that ZDNet took a picture of. Yeah, I guess they don't have it yet. Oh wait. Oh, there's a I think you click the same link as me, and on the left hand panel there's a filter for Pro. And you have to delete that.
Oh, sneaky.
Okay.
They're trying to hide
So
stuff. Wait, no, we wanted Pro.
Oh,
It's the
well,
Premium Plus stuff we didn't want.
I still can't find the one they have a picture of. All these have normal keyboards. All these are not fucked up.
Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna guess that they're probably trying, or that, well, they'll roll some of this stuff out later. Announcing it today does, or in this week doesn't necessarily mean much is gonna be out yet.
This might have been in the
Um,
pile of press releases I got, but I don't care to go through that.
In fact,
Yeah,
just above that photo, literally right above that photo, the sentence reads, "Prices are still unknown, although it is set to launch in late March." And I'm not sure that that even applies necessarily to... Oh, yeah, it's for that model. Oh, wait, that's the Dell Pro Max 14. Okay, I don't care. This... We're spending too much time looking at this for...
We've established this is dumb.
Yeah.
No further comment is needed.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we wanted to cover anyway, is dumb.
Yeah. Speaking of laptops, Qualcomm revealed the Snapdragon X. So if you're out of the loop or need a refresher, the Snapdragon X is Qualcomm's PC chips. They already had the Snapdragon X Elite, which is like their highest end one, and then they made a one level down, which is the Snapdragon X Plus, and now they have one level below that, which is the Snapdragon X with no words on it. So this is their new lowest end chip. I got really annoyed at this announcement because it did not contain a single comparison to their existing chips, and I had to pull up the specs tables for the other ones and use my eyes to determine a difference in the tables.
Your poor eyes.
Yeah, I had to use my brain. It really sucks. They could have just told me. But The main catch here is that the CPU is a little bit worse. So they've got one 8-core CPU, whereas the X Plus has a 10-core, and the Snapdragon X Elite is 12-core. And also the GPU took a hit. It now is this one can only do 1.7 teraflops of performance, while the X Plus can do 3.8, and the X Elite is 3.8 to 4.6. So CPU is worse, GPU is worse. The TPU is the same, because I believe that 45 watt is like Microsoft's benchmark for what is a Copilot plus PC. So they can't change that, or the PC makers can't call the laptops Copilot plus PCs. And they also, maybe at some point Microsoft will add more features to that makes that matter. So they're trying not to budge that. But the CPU, don't need that. Don't need that. That could be worse. It's still got, the same base architecture. So my impression is that it will just be a little bit slower, but you still get the very good power efficiency of ARM. That's their selling point. Like, and all this also infuriated me, because they had like the worst stats imaginable. They were like conflating so many numbers, but the point they were trying to get across is that compared to like Intel CPUs in the price range they're targeting, this is a lot more power efficient. Probably not as powerful, but more power efficient. And this is supposed to go into computers that are around $600. So we're talking like very mid-range laptops and desktops. We did get at CES a couple of little mini PCs. I think just running this one, I don't know if anyone has put one of the Snapdragon like Elite or Plus chips into a little desktop PC, but that was something I was waiting on. I've been waiting on, okay, when is the PC world going to have a Mac Mini competitor? And those are slowly starting to show up. I will say this one will probably be dicey for emulated x86 software. Because you probably need a lot of that, as much of that CPU overhead as possible, so that the performance hit from running everything in emulation isn't quite as severe. I would expect anything with this chip will probably not do any gaming, like not even close to that, because it has less CPU and less GPU power, and pretty much all Windows games are still x86, so that needs CPU overhead. So I don't think this will run like any games at all. But if you're buying a $600 laptop that isn't a gaming laptop, that wasn't really on the table anyway. So, I think most people would prefer to have an extra 2 hours with Google Chrome open than 15 frames per second in Minecraft.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, at $600, if this is at all supposed to be an all rounder, and it's going to include any AI functionality, and assuming that the display is not something that they harvested from like the used bin at a thrift store, there was no way it was going to be a good gaming system. 600 can barely get you into gaming, even if it's like a focused product. So yeah, wouldn't expect too much.
Yeah, so my experience reviewing one of the Snapdragon X Elite laptops was not super positive, mostly because the Windows on ARM ecosystem is still very early, but it is getting slowly better. This is already going many times better than all of the previous attempts to build ARM Windows things. Because the first time with Surface RT, there was like no apps, and then when they tried this around like Windows 10 with like some of the like 32-bit, uh, very old Snapdragon stuff, there still really wasn't ever native software. And now there is a decent amount of native software, mostly just because all the browsers are now ARM, and that's most of the, you know, that's kind of what most people are using most of the time on their computers. Like even I remember when Qualcomm was talking about this initially, and once they got uh, all the web browsers to build ARM versions, they were like, uh, it was some number like, oh, 70%, or the apps that users use 70% of the time are native, and it's like, yeah, because they're in a web browser
Yeah.
most of the time. It's like, sure, man, yeah, sure. Um, Google Chrome didn't have an ARM build the last time there was a push for this, so that alone is helpful. So yeah, this is an ecosystem that is taking a long time to get going, but it's getting there.
Kind of. It's happening. I would argue it's actually happening. Well, a lot happened not right away. It took a couple of years, and then there were a few very notable improvements, and now I think we're going to be sitting in that very long tail of just waiting for everyone else to finally be like, "Oh yeah, okay, we're ready now. We're gonna do our swap." And yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's
there's
gonna be very slow.
there's still a lot of stuff that would be a blocker for me to probably get one of these if I was spending my own money. Like they're still limited to Windows in much the same way that an ARM Silicon Mac is mostly limited to Mac OS. Um, Stuff like virtual machines and that kind of stuff. I don't think still exists outside of like Microsoft's own Hyper-V. A lot of like dev stuff is missing still. But yeah, also like all games, like some games work in emulation, but it's the same type of work as like Proton games on a Steam Deck, where maybe they do. Something breaks, no one will help you.
Yeah.
You're like several layers into unsupported land. You are at your own peril.
And depending on the game, you could even get banned for cheating.
Yeah.
Because that, by the way, for anyone who missed it, Marvel Rivals company NetEase, they actually gave apparently up to 100-year bans for people who are playing Marvel Rivals on a Mac using emulation, which is that was just them being kind of dumb and unaware that people are going to do this, and their anti-cheat software threw a bunch of red flags because it doesn't work on emulation. But yeah, anyway, I'm not going to spend any time on that story. Just figured I'd mention it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's it's getting there. Still taking a while, and still much slower and more painful than Apple's version of this. Because Windows is a lot more messy.
Yeah, and
although I will, to give Qualcomm and Microsoft credit, I can run software from more than 10 years ago on one of these laptops.
valid-ish point.
Can't do it on Mac. I have in fact run SimCity 2000 on ARM Windows, which was 1995, I think. Runs fine. So it runs fine after I used a patch to make the installer 32-bit, because the game is 32-bit, but the installer was 16-bit. and that does not work on modern Windows. That's a step too far. But after that, it was fine.
Nice. Um, yeah, and in some fairness, Apple's transitions have been a little bit more aggressive and a little more limiting. So, I I could give, depending on which specific issue, I could give them a little bit more leeway because they had to make some bigger changes at a very specific time. But Windows, yeah, has been good at supporting legacy, for better and worse. Um, so yeah, somewhat switching gears. Good news for Qualcomm in general. This didn't happen in the last week. This actually happened. It was like 2 weeks ago. The date on this article says it was on the 1st, but I think that's incorrect. But Qualcomm and ARM have been basically at each other's throats in court for a little while now, over the fact that ARM isn't happy with Qualcomm's acquisition of Nuvia and the fact that they basically said, hey, Nuvia already had a licensing agreement to manufacture these chips, and or desktop, basically laptop desktop class chips, and we don't want to renegotiate that deal. So ARM disagreed. ARM wanted money, and so ARM basically said, no, you have to renegotiate, and we're going to charge you a hell of a lot more. That's the deal. So they've been fighting each other over this, and it ended up going to court. A judge just sided with Qualcomm, saying, nope, ARM, they have, they're going to get to make stuff with their Nuvia acquisition. The old chips, they get to, or the old designs, they get to keep that. None of the work has to be thrown out. Qualcomm can move forward with manufacturing desktop and laptop class chips from the Nuvia acquisition. Obviously, we just talked about their Snapdragon processor, which was, let's be honest, that's based on their phone technology. It was not really well suited for laptops. It has some advantages, but it's not great. So the Nuvia stuff is way more powerful, way more focused on higher demand processing. So, yeah, this gives Qualcomm some sort of a chance to maybe someday get into the territory of what Apple's M-series chips can do, at least some of the older ones. It may be a long time, if ever, before they catch up otherwise. But, yeah, so this happened. Whether or not we'll see any direct results of this, I don't know. Some Nuvia chips are already on the market, or products made with Nuvia chips are on the market. Presumably those were safe anyway, but anything else that Qualcomm had lying around would have been destroyed if a judge sided with ARM on this. And just for note, which I think that this is where it could get interesting, the court decided in favor of Qualcomm on, at least partially, on the basis, and I think this is hilarious, that Qualcomm's argument is that the work or the architecture that they're using from Nuvia amounts to 1% or less of their chip designs and basically their products. So presumably, if Qualcomm ever starts becoming very successful with desktop and laptop class chips from the Nuvia acquisition, they will actually have to circle back and renegotiate a new deal, which could become actually a good incentive for Qualcomm to either limit how much they do with these and possibly actually handicap their production, or they'll eventually Well, what I'm trying to say is this might actually become a factor in their decision making on how they release products, how they upgrade them. Possibly they might even hold themselves back so that they can avoid renegotiating. Because I'm just going to go out on a limb here. I bet ARM is going to be very petty about this and probably hold Qualcomm's nuts over the fire if a renegotiation ever happens.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, the next time they need to renew their ARM license is gonna be really ugly.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so the upside of this is that maybe Qualcomm will keep dumping money into Risk. Although, who knows? Because now the U.S. doesn't like Risk because China gets to work on it.
Yeah.
So Qualcomm, being a U.S. company, maybe will be told not to work on that. I don't know. Again, maybe Canada invades California, and then none of this matters, and then Qualcomm will be a Canadian company. Who knows?
Yeah. So, and I don't know. I at this stage, I think Qualcomm wants to keep supporting RISC-V development purely on the basis that it's a good negotiating advantage. Kind of the same way that Google at one point in history was pushing other companies so that they could be a negotiating presence against Samsung, and obviously Samsung had its own products and development, software products and development that they could use to negotiate against Google. And like everyone always wants to have that extra chess piece on the board that they can point to and say, "Oh, what if I start using that thing over there?" They won't do it because it's a big disadvantage to them. But in the interest of having that like cheaper licensing deal, or having the escape hatch in case you've got a partner that is honestly as crazy as ARM has shown itself to be, then yeah, you want to be able to pull the ripcord and escape. And RISC-V is right now Qualcomm's only escape hatch. So, yay, we'll see. What else? Did you have anything else to say on this one?
Nope.
Okay. Well, in that case, I know I'm kind of moving things around after we made plans. Let's do SteamOS
Okay.
because relatively quick, I think.
Yeah. Not a lot to say here. Just that Valve made a custom version of Arch Linux for their Steam Deck when they were making the Steam Deck, called SteamOS, and it turned out to be pretty good, given the other constraints that exist in trying to shove PC gaming into a handheld. Generally, I haven't used any of the PC handhelds. Like it's really not for me. But my understanding is that SteamOS is a overall better experience and much better in battery life than the similar handhelds that run Windows. That makes sense to me because Windows on laptops has never been good. It's always been bad for battery life.
And you're just talking laptops. You get to handhelds and
yeah,
yikes.
smaller battery needs to do the same thing.
Also, input mechanism, to me, in my opinion, Windows was never really designed for this particular size category.
Yeah, I mean it's very much like the thing where I would be using. Well, I mean this happens with iPads too, but this happened all with like Android tablets where you'd open a app that was only designed for phones, and your screen would forcibly shift the other way, even if you had like a keyboard dock, and not quite fitting right. That's kind of like what the whole OS is like on the handhelds. So yeah, people like SteamOS, and I know there were projects to get SteamOS installed on other handhelds. I think there was one that was supposed to come out with SteamOS as an option, but that was canceled probably because Valve was, you need a license from Valve to, use the Steam trademark and whatnot. So now they have an official licensing program. So the Lenovo Legion Go S is the first handheld that can officially run SteamOS. You can buy it with SteamOS or Windows, I believe. And there will be more of these. And yeah, so SteamOS, you're going to see more of these PC handhelds with the same exact software as the Steam Deck. So many of the same benefits, but also the same problems where game compatibility is still iffy. A lot of games, going back to the ARM Windows discussion, a lot of games have anti-cheat that will not run on this. So still a reason for the Windows handhelds to exist and for Microsoft to hopefully keep improving that. But now there's going to be more stuff with Steam. And this should, I think it's really funny that this should probably scare Microsoft, where this isn't a big market, but it is like one of the things that Windows was already like there and very quickly can be displaced because Windows sucks in this form factor. So yeah, if I was Microsoft right now, I'd probably start working on porting just the whole Xbox UI to these Windows handhelds at least. I think there's also still supposed to be like an actual Xbox handheld, but I don't know if that's, no one knows anything about that yet.
A couple generations, so
yeah,
we'll see. Man, so many things on this show just end in the words "we'll see."
That's CES for you. The companies say something and then they'll talk about it again in 8 months, and that's just the circle of life.
Yeah. So yeah, I really don't have anything to add to this other than kind of the exact same thought of, man, Xbox division really needs to get on this handheld situation sooner rather than later if they want to compete. Otherwise, Steam has kind of got a big opening to keep making inroads here. And
also, if Valve was interested, this could potentially be expanded to desktops. I don't know if they have SteamOS in a format that is made for desktop. I know they have like the old SteamOS as like a image you can download. But if they also made like a SteamOS desktop distribution, like that could be kind of interesting. So we'll see.
Yeah. Okay, and rounding out our CES portion of the show, which is hilarious to say, but just to quickly mention it, in 2 weeks, Galaxy Unpacked is happening. Samsung took it upon themselves to announce during CES that they're not announcing anything at CES. I say that, but of course they are announcing TVs and other stuff. We don't care about that. But their next phone will be happening in 2 weeks. So, yay, I guess. I don't know.
Yep. New phone's coming. And I wish it was February at least. I need like a really long nap after this week.
Yeah, I get that.
Don't talk to me. Just no more announcements, please.
But someone else who's probably been napping for a little too long is Mark Zuckerberg. Or maybe he'll need a nap after this week. I can't tell which. But the ridiculous, laughable moron of a billionaire has decided to join the grifter crew. He has announced Meta is rolling back its content moderation teams in favor of an X-style um, community notes feature. So basically, they're inviting back hate speech. They're inviting back general racism, misinformation, um, uh, grifters, con artists, the whole scheme. About the only things that are still going to be off limits are going to be threats of violence, presumably very highly open hate speech, but I think even that's in question. Um, yeah, they're not. They just
Um,
don't want to moderate anymore.
yeah. So this was. I'm just to be really honest. I think this matters more than pretty much everything else that happened at CES and the rest of this
Oh
week
yeah.
in terms of like impact. It's not good.
Well,
I need to
none
actually
of the
pull up their
stuff at
actual
CES is
blog.
going to have a big, like, actual real world
Right,
impact.
right. I'm trying to find. I need to go back to the blog post, Meta blog
Meta's blog
that I
post.
talked. Yeah. Newsroom, is this it? Yes, that's it. Okay. All right, I'll put this in the YouTube chat also if anyone cares. This is a very weird, like just disgusting. Like this is a blog post. You start out with a video of the Zuck trying once again to appear human. Someone clocked, I think, his watch he's wearing here costs like $10,000. Um, and this blog post basically goes on to say that like content moderation isn't working. In fact, it's too aggressive. We keep, people keep getting locked up in quote unquote Facebook jail without a clear reason, which yeah, like there is evidence of that happening. A lot of times it's for like, kind of vaguely left wing reasons. I'm sure they just generally messed up a lot because that's how content moderation on a big platform works, and they haven't really cared about it the past couple of years. Um, but they go on to say that they're ending their so they will still have moderators. The difference is that before now they had third-party fact-checking organizations that could add notes to posts. I don't think they ever had the power to delete posts. It was only ever like adding context. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong.
No,
Um,
they could definitely delete posts.
okay.
Or well,
Uh,
I guess maybe delete is in that internet kind of way. Delete might be the wrong word, but they could make a post effectively invisible. Um, so yeah.
yeah. So they're ending that fact checking program and they're replacing it with basically identical to Twitter's community notes. So this relies on users trying to fact check the posts and then the correct answer, sort of duking it out with a point system. They say, just like they do on X, community notes will require agreement between people with a range of perspectives to help prevent biased ratings. And they're rolling this out. They're rolling this out over Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. And they mentioned that Meta itself will never, supposedly never add community notes, which is wild. So like either a post will break the rules and get deleted or your account suspended, or they'll just stay there and be noted. And like it's just like, I know everyone knows this, but like this doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't work on Twitter because it relies on normal people having like the ability to find citations for evidence and explain them. Most people don't have that skill. That's really difficult sometimes,
Media
and also relies
literacy
on happening.
is
Yeah,
difficult.
we have no media literacy left in this country. Also, that it relies on that happening quickly. because posts go viral very quickly, and there's been some good articles about this. But a lot of times, posts that should get proper community notes either don't, or there's like a weird fight in the like suggested notes that keeps a actual answer from coming up. Like this doesn't work. It doesn't work, and using it as a model for a much larger social media network to do is very obviously a bad decision.
Yes.
And everyone who is not Mark Zuckerberg knows this. Mark also probably knows it too. He doesn't care, but
yeah. So, really quick, just to dig in very specifically on that whole agreement between people part. It is famously a problem on, or it comes up on X. This is actually famously a problem on Nextdoor, where moderation is done with the voting system, because once you have enough people who are, we'll just say, bad actors, or generally aligned for a certain cause, they will brigade anything, and they will coordinate to brigade anything. So at the end of the day, if somebody posts one thing that is obvious misinformation, what'll end up happening is legitimate people will come along, see this, and go, no, that's BS, and they'll try to add a community note, and then you'll have a bunch of other people who all communicate with each other very clearly saying, no, we need to stop these community notes. So they will coordinate 15, 20, 30 people to all go in and say, no, this is correct, and they'll block a community note. This obviously happens on Twitter. I think it's just not talked about as often that is happening on Twitter.
Well, this also like is Reddit's entire existence.
Yeah.
Like this is just a problem with all of these like vote-based systems. Some stuff important enough where you need someone to actually make a decision and not just leave it to the swarm to decide. And it's, if you read between the lines even slightly here, it's so clear they don't actually care about like what is real, what isn't. Like there's even just the line about different viewpoints that doesn't work when conservatives do not operate in reality. Like there's not a two sides to a lot of the things that would be an issue here, or not a valid two sides.
I'm going to briefly acknowledge that is an overly broad brush. Not all conservatives are as insane as the ones we're clearly referencing here. Common sense here, though. Yeah, a lot of them are operating in the Marjorie Taylor Greene Jewish space laser kind of crazy way.
There's like 7 fiscal conservatives left, and maybe those people are a little bit normal. But like this blog, like I was reading it and I was feeling icky, and it's really disgusting because like it's bad when Twitter did this. But Twitter is a little bit of a different beast where a lot of the people using it are like important, like they're politicians, journalists, celebs, whatever. But in terms of actual user base, Twitter was always like kind of small. Versus Facebook and Instagram are so many magnitudes higher of a user base. So them bringing that shitstorm over to the social networks where the user count is in the billions is really bad for all of us. This is going to be really bad. And like this made me icky, and I saw some people referencing when this came out, like people were posting screenshots of stuff I couldn't tell where they were getting it from. And it's from this other post on their Transparency Center. where they explain their policies for hateful conduct. And a lot of stuff here is still like on paper good. Again, who knows if these are actually like all these are being enforced properly. Oh, Carson said, is the Twitter community thing notes open source? Is Facebook just building off of it? I know the community notes feature is the algorithm powering it. That got released at some point. I don't know if that's what they're using. They just say like the feature will behave about the same.
Yeah, I think they're just following the same pattern, not anything resembling the source code.
Yeah. So this other page mentions that you should not post content targeting a person or group of people on the basis of their protected characteristics with, and then it lists a bunch of things like you can't call for like segregation, which is, that's good. A lot of specific insults. You can't call someone. Okay, well, I shouldn't say that on the stream, but a lot of things that are acceptable. And then it gets to this part. So it says insults. You have to click read more on that page, and then it's where it says insults, including those about. And they say, so this is what's not allowed. Insults about mental characteristics, including but not limited to allegations of stupidity, intellectual capacity, and mental illness, and unsupported comparisons between groups on the basis of inherent intellectual capacity. We do allow allegations of mental illness or abnormality when based on gender or sexual orientation, given political and religious discourse about transgenderism and homosexuality, and common non-serious usage of words like weird. So they are fully saying here, you can call gay people the R word. That's totally allowed. That sounds great. Yeah. And they're saying, and especially if you pay attention to any of like the right-wing circles, like I am cursed to do by being online, transgenderism, that word is like massive blaring red alert noises. Like that's the shit you see on like really bad Twitter 4chan. Like that's like the hot word that they love, that right-wingers love using for, associating just the existence of trans people as like a ideology and a movement that must be stopped. That's like big flashing red words, like that same vibe as like when they use like they in this suspicious way, like we know what you're doing here.
What's the link to it? Carson was asking.
Oh yeah, I'll put this in the YouTube chat. Yes, and like there's a couple other things. I think someone else reported that they removed a rule that previously banned calling women property, like there's, or like household objects, or like there's a bunch of like unhinged stuff here, and it's really scary. That's the best way I can put it. I don't like this at all. Freaks me out that I have family members that are using these platforms that have already said very weird and uncomfortable things that I'm sure they got from one of these places, and it's going to get worse. But you could say weird, and that's good. I'm glad they established that's okay. So yeah, it's really gross. I will say the other string here related to what we've talked about over the past year as sort of the Twitter exodus has continued is this fully shuts the door to Threads ever being like a viable platform, especially in terms of like ActivityPub Fediverse stuff, because the stated intention was like, when when Meta said it was working on Threads as like a Twitter replacement, and they were going to have ActivityPub support, so it would, there would be cross communication between Threads and all the Mastodon servers, and all those communities. And there was immediately a discourse about like, should we ban Threads immediately? Because based on Facebook's very long established history of letting a bunch of crap on its platform continue, maybe that's not a good idea. Maybe we don't want to deal with that. And so a bunch of Mastodon servers like fully preemptively blocked Threads. Just as like, don't want to deal with this. They don't want to deal with this. They're gonna mess it up, or just I don't want anything to do with Meta. There was like some stuff about like them using like harvesting data from servers, but that's all public anyway. That part was weird to me. And I was definitely in the camp of like, yeah, they fucked up a lot. They probably will again, but I would like this to work because I wanted a future where like I could exist on Mastodon, and then everyone who didn't want to figure out Mastodon, which is a very valid opinion, could just hang out on Threads, and then we could all still talk to each other. I wouldn't have to check 5 apps for all the people that used to be on Twitter. And maybe that was naive on my part. I would like to think it was just optimism. But this is pretty clearly Facebook saying like, yeah, no, that's going to happen.
Yeah.
In fact, we're actually going to be worse than we were before.
They're trying real hard.
Yeah. So I think my initial thought was like, Threads is going to end up in basically the same camp as Gab, which was an overtly right-wing network that was based on Mastodon and initially had Federation enabled, and then basically every server blocked them immediately. And a lot of servers already preemptively blocked Threads. And I saw one of the big admins who runs a bunch of servers just blocked Threads fully on everything. I saw the guy who runs the Mastodon project. I'm forgetting his name right now. But Mastodon project and Mastodon.social and Mastodon.online. It doesn't seem like they're blocking Threads yet, but they're gonna supposedly like look more into like reported posts and stuff. So they're on kind of thin ice there too. So yeah, it's annoying. I'm sure it's also kind of annoying for all the people working on these services. They were definitely dragging their feet a little bit with the ActivityPub integration in Threads, and I was kind of wondering like if they would ever like fully play along, or if it would always just be like, we're going to extract the most value out of this user base for Threads as we can, and the people who are still hanging out on Mastodon or whatever kind of get like a lower tier experience. But now it's just like, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter because you're gonna allow anything, and so that's the technical implementation of this no longer matters because what are we implementing? So I don't know. Really sucks. Makes me mad.
Yeah. So, couple things I'm gonna add to this. Earlier you mentioned that, basically you said if you read between the lines, or if you even give this a cursory reading, you can tell they don't care about what they're saying. They don't care about safety, and they don't really care about the free speech aspect of it either. This is pretty obviously pandering. Zuckerberg even said that this was at least partially in response to the election results, which is a really obvious just waving your hands in the air saying, hey everyone, please come to us, we don't care. The thing is, I would go a step further and say that this community notes thing really feeds into Facebook's, I'm gonna say, best interests, in the sense that this is designed for engagement farming. You're literally going to have more people hanging out on an individual post that is probably full of misinformation or hate speech or whatever else as they argue over that post. So it's more opportunity for ads. It's more opportunity to harvest, data about the users. They have literally incentivized people to come and spend more time on Facebook by coming up with a thing that should disincentivize people from being on Facebook at all. So yeah, I think somebody in a boardroom somewhere probably was doing that very math calculation on how much more money can we make by introducing a system like this. And very notably, I think it's fair to say that since you brought up Mastodon, this community notes feature absolutely will not be supported throughout Mastodon. It's not a thing that exists in Mastodon, at least not currently, and I don't see any reason why they're going to jump to support it. And even if they do, I'm not sure it's something that will be open or accessible outside of the Threads system. So yeah, I'd pretty safely assume that it's something that will only exist there, and that really defeats part of the purpose of it. Obviously, acknowledging that it was defeated by its very existence, but it will be useless. Also, you mentioned that Twitter. One of the things about Twitter is it was a lower user count, but the users on there were, we'll throw air quotes around, important. There certainly were some who were, a lot who weren't, but whatever. I'm actually going to go a step further on that too and say, yeah, Facebook's user count certainly is higher, but it's also a different category of user. My mom didn't go on Twitter. Technically, she saw a little bit here and there, but she didn't have a Twitter account. She wasn't an active Twitter user. Grandparents, your random, completely clueless neighbor who doesn't hang out on these sorts of things, they are users on Facebook. They are not people who ever went to Twitter. The thing is, this is basically inviting a whole bunch of people who, again, have no media literacy, or certainly some do, but it's in an extreme minority. But also people who are, I would say, socially illiterate. And I don't mean in the sense of they can't walk into a place and say hi to people. I mean in the sense of they literally do not know anything about what's going on in the country. They do not know anything about the news. They don't know anything about really anything. They only have Facebook so that they can talk to their, family members or whatever. And otherwise they live relatively simple lives. There are also users in other countries where the politics are extremely complicated, much like ours, but in different ways. If you've ever heard some of the stories about, like, the moderation that has to go on in a few countries because there's the hate speech is even more coded and incendiary, but it's sneakier. There are really horrible problems going on in a few other countries where Facebook has been kind of held to task repeatedly for how bad they are at handling it. The massive mismanagement of their moderation in those countries, where I forget what country it was. I really wish I could remember, but there was a news report a few years ago about how in this one country there were groups that were just organizing actual, like, kidnapping squads to go out looking for people of a certain, I forget if it was race or religion or something, but they were doing this in the open. And because Facebook had a little trouble hiring enough moderators that spoke the correct language. Like, they already had trouble hiring enough moderators in general, but then a lot of the moderators they had didn't even live in the country. They were just people who were familiar with the language. So they had no concept of what was even happening. And so they didn't understand what the like coded discussions were. And obviously stuff like that gets reported. They see it. They spend, 5 seconds looking at something and say, we don't see anything wrong with it, and dismiss it. Anyway. Yeah, that kind of stuff is already a problem in some countries. Let's be honest, it's already a problem here. They just did a better job of moderating it up until now. The thing is, so many countries have these really complicated political issues going on. And in many instances, shutting it down, even at the most basic levels, like limiting the amount of it or putting some sort of a container around it, was an important thing to be doing. And the thing is, this will, I guarantee, this will enhance the capabilities for recruitment. This will allow for certainly, obviously, scam artists and various other bad actors, but it's going to enable a lot more recruitment of people who literally don't even follow this stuff. They aren't interested in it, but at a certain point, if their feeds start filling up with more and more of this, it's a very short trip before a lot of them get manipulated into it or even pressured into it. So we're going to see a lot worse coming out of this. And it's, on Twitter, a lot of people were already conditioned to expect that. A lot of people already kind of know that Twitter was a more hostile place. And that's before Elon Musk ever came into the picture. Facebook is going to now become that hostile place. And a lot of the people literally are just not prepared for it. They're not ready for it. But man, they're going to get recruited into it very quickly. So yes, this is 100% a dangerous precedent that's being created here.
Yeah, it's at the same time as 404 Media's done a couple articles about how they're testing just like AI people, like just accounts that post like they're a person and you can chat with them, but they're not real. Mm-hmm. I guess just to give the impression that there's more active users than there are. I don't know. But
it's Twitter has been doing for a long time.
Right. Yeah. Well, I don't know if Twitter's was ever like in an official capacity. But this definitely is.
Yeah. But literally everyone has known Twitter's been doing it.
Right. So, yeah, it's just really depressing. That's all I've got. And don't use Facebook or Instagram if you can avoid it. Sometimes you can't.
Yeah, it's getting ugly. I'm starting to wonder if we can get a new thing started that's actually going to just straight up say, nope, we're censoring crap. Everyone can shut the hell up about it. If you don't like it, go to one of the other places and spend all your day arguing about who's a real gender.
Yeah, and I did see Blue Sky was ticking back up in the App Store listings after this. I didn't see Mastodon. Mastodon again has kind of stopped benefiting from these migration waves. It's according to the Mastodon people, it's still getting a little bit. I know that is more difficult to track, especially because when it comes to the apps, there's like 20 Mastodon apps on both app stores. and then kind of just generally still one Blue Sky client that most people are using. So if I go to my app store right now, where is the top apps? They keep moving it. Top free apps. The number one app right now also is Duty, which is a DOTY, not the other one, which is for wildfire maps. Because also the other news happening is that LA is on fire right now.
Yep.
And that's really scary too.
Yeah, especially because it's happening in January, whereas typically wildfires like this should probably be more of a summertime thing. You know, 'tis the season and all. But yeah. I can't wait. I can't wait for the president who previously tried to actually extort money out of states and get their governors to kiss his feet so that he would protect them from wildfires years ago. It's going to be so fun when he gets back in, and wildfires are surely going to be outrageously bad this year. Woo.
Yeah. So Threads is number 4 right now, so that's a little disappointing. Blue Sky is 23. I think it was like 26 earlier, so it's moving up. Facebook is 25. Where's Instagram was 17. Where, if I keep scrolling, when do I get to a Mastodon app? Twitter's back down to 51. Get fucked, loser. We got Google Sheets. I'm not seeing a Mastodon in the top 150, unfortunately. Yeah. Okay. So still not registering there necessarily. So yeah, go sign up for Mastodon and Blue Sky if you haven't already. Try that out. Neither of those are perfect either. Far from it, but less insane now.
Yeah.
I think we could all use some of that right now. Which is why we're moving on to something that's also kind of insane, but like in a fun, normal, like capitalist way, instead of just like hate speech.
Yeah.
So yeah. So don't. Yeah. There's no slurs in this one.
Oh, give it time. Give it time.
Yeah. So you may recall last year, Disney, Warner, and Fox, the part that Disney didn't buy a Fox, were getting together to make a streaming service called VNew Sports, which was going to have all the sports stuff that all of them own on one subscription. This made Fubo, the TV streaming company, very mad because they've been trying to do basically that, but every time they go to Disney or another one of the major providers and like, can we only have the sports channel, please, so we can make a sports subscription? They're always like, no, you will have the Discovery Channel, you will have A&E, you will have National Geographic or whatever else we want. No, there's not an opt-out. So Fubo launched a lawsuit. They actually got a successful injunction, so VNew Sports was not allowed to launch by judge order, saying that it was highly likely that Fubo would win anti-competitive, like get a successful verdict in an anti-competitive lawsuit. Fast forward to today, Disney and Fubo are merging. So this is kind of confusing in no small part because Fubo and Hulu and VNew are all too close together of words. So I'm gonna do my best here, but basically what's happening is that Disney wants to spin off Hulu Live TV, which is their streaming TV thing that is not necessarily connected to Hulu anymore. It's just like the live TV part. They're spinning that off to Fubo. Fubo gets that. Fubo remains a independent company that Disney owns 70% of. But all the existing Fubo CEO and management people get to stay there. And Fubo will continue operating Fubo and Live Hulu Live TV. I would imagine at some point they merge those because I don't really know if there's overlap or whatever makes sense there. Um, and then eventually Fubo will launch a sports and broadcast service featuring Disney's premier sports and broadcast networks, including ABC, ESPN, ESPN2, ESPNU, and other stuff. So basically, Fubo will get to create a sort of sports thing they want, I guess, but that's still only Disney stuff. That doesn't include like the Warner or Fox stuff. And Fubo importantly will continue to do carriage agreements on its own. So they're still going to run into the same problem that all these companies do, like every 6 months, where someone wants more money and then a channel goes dark for like 6 months, and each one blames the other one for being too money hungry. So they're going to continue doing that. So this still has to be fully agreed. I don't know if there's like a necessarily a regulatory agency that has to sign off on this, but they still need to get all the shareholders to say yes. And all litigation between Fubo and Disney have been settled. So that's good for Disney. So I don't know in reality how much this changes things, because Disney was already running a live TV service and Fubo was like independent, but independent in the same way as every other TV provider, where their existence depends on making agreements with an ever increasing consolidated media industry that makes that increasingly impossible. Like it's been really fun watching like some channels just go dark on like DirecTV for a year or 2 years because there's like 3 companies that own all the channels now. So they can just choke out everyone else. So it doesn't seem good though. Probably not good. Probably not good that a judge said Fubo was likely to win something
Therefore,
in a
we have to
lawsuit.
stop it from existing.
Now, yeah, now that's been stopped, and Fubo is now 70% owned by Disney. So,
Yeah. Yeah. There is, to me, there is no good way to look at this. It's the sort of thing where it just makes you kind of think, could we possibly get Luigi Mangione just a weekend pass to venture near some more execs? That'd be awesome. But yeah, this is basically sort of mob tactics of Disney recognized the possibility that Fubo was going to give it some real competition, and so they put a legal boot on their neck. Man, I'm just tapping into every politically charged subject through these expressions. But yeah, they're basically going to kind of try to choke, or they decided to choke Fubo out, and until the point came along where they could just buy it effectively. It's a good tactic.
yeah,
It works.
yeah. And I was thinking like this might have before this, the legal action might eventually snowball into like some kind of actual like big change in this industry, because this is still something that's like collapsing. Like it doesn't really make sense that like all the people I know who watch sports are like, yeah, I need like 7 services to watch one sport, because everything's spread out across everything. Also, the carriage disputes are getting worse because now it's like, oh, if DirecTV and Sinclair Broadcasting don't finalize a contract, like a third of the channels are gone.
Mm-hmm.
and that's getting worse because the media companies are continuing to consolidate. So this is still like something that feels like it's on the verge of falling apart, and I don't exactly know how that will happen now. Um, Probably just with what else is happening, probably just end with all of them becoming one company, because I think we'll just let that happen now. So there'll be one company called Disney that will
Yeah.
just own all TV and movies, and that's just how it will work now.
Yep. I hate this.
Yeah,
um
let's go back to the Facebook.
oh no, I was actually going to add one more, like, not even topic, but another instant mention.
Okay.
It's something I posted in Discord earlier. It just in the same sort of way, the Getty Images thing. And I know most people listening to this are not going to care at all about this, but I just wanted to quickly rant about this. So Getty Images just bought Shutterstock. Shutterstock, it's, well, okay, so both of these companies are basically image rights services. That's the easiest way to describe it. Getty Images is one of those where they mostly peddled, or primarily peddled, in licensing photos of celebrities or famous people, or famous, in some cases, famous locations, so that they could be used by newspapers or magazines or whomever for publishing. That way, you wouldn't necessarily have to send a photographer out to go shoot whatever thing, or if there was a particular event in time, Getty wanted to own most of the images for that, so they could license them out for anyone who wanted to write about that that event. Shutterstock, similar story. They're a stock photo and stock footage company. Basically, they had people who were producing those very generic, like office worker jumping in the air, or random person who's frustrated with using phone. I'm oversimplifying here, but that's a lot of what they did. Anyway, there was also a decent amount of crossover here and there, particularly where people wanted to post things to Shutterstock specifically to avoid giving them to Getty Images. So quick background on the companies. Shutterstock, for the most part, has been an okay player in the internet. They've had a few problems with people uploading stuff that didn't belong to them and getting licensing money off of it. But for the most part, Shutterstock has tried to be reasonably legitimate. Getty Images is famously a litigious a-hole. To put it gently, they are borderline corrupt. They are awful. They are horrendous, pretty much in all the conceivable ways. And like a few years ago, they sued somebody over an image that Getty Images did not own. They did not have the licensing rights on it. They didn't care. They didn't like that someone used an image, so they still sued them over it. And I think they managed to force a settlement or something. Yeah, they're awful. Anyway, so Getty Images is just basically a giant bully, and Shutterstock was the largest stock photo and footage. Well, stock photo. I don't know about footage, but basically, yeah, the biggest guy just bought the second biggest guy in this particular pair of spaces. And Getty Images is basically taking a victory lap about getting to do that. So the reason I bring this up is all those sites that you go to these days, they're either about to be forced into using probably Shutterstock, which is now Getty Images. They're either going to be forced to probably pay a whole lot more money to them, which means they're probably going to up the ads that they're funneling to you, or their image quality is possibly going to go down at least a little bit, if not a lot. And also expect for at least a few sites to probably get sued over ridiculous stuff, which means that sites that you actually like may be disappearing sometime soon, because Getty is also famous for pursuing literally every last cent they can get. So yeah, it's gonna be rough for websites thanks to these guys.
Yeah, and I don't know if this was an issue with Getty, because I think Getty is like almost, well, I'll say, like, I don't know if this is an issue for Getty, but I know with Shutterstock they were having like just waves of AI generated images also show up in the data, so that was another really fun thing, making it worse for everyone. So yeah, seems fun. Thanks for finding another depressing thing to talk about. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I know. It's, well, you know, we started with CES and then decided to stick with something depressing.
Yeah, stay tuned for the next topic. We're going to talk about history of ethnic cleansing. It's going to be really fun.
As if we didn't already. But yeah, it's, I don't know. This sucks.
Okay. I'll talk about like one quick thing I forgot to bring up earlier, and then I'm going to go. Okay. This is not as depressing. It's just kind of maybe questionable.
Note, by the way, but go ahead.
Okay. So HMD, which is the company that was making Nokia, well, they're still making Nokia phones, announced the HMD Off Grid, which is a little, I don't know how to describe it. It's like kind of business card sized, but a little bit thicker. It's a Bluetooth device with the ability to connect to satellites. So how this works is you pair it to your phone with Bluetooth, and then it talks to the satellites, and it gives you two-way messaging on theoretically any Android or iPhone, because now the satellite hardware is in the little thing. It's not in the phone.
Right.
And I saw this and I was curious about like a lot of things with this that they kind of mention in parts of the spec sheet or press release. They're using, let me actually pull up my article for this. So the network they're using is Skylo, which is the one Google's using for the Pixel 9. And there's a few other phones and similar adapters to this that use the same network. So I think this might just be like a white label or like a shared platform that Skylo made and H&D's borrowing it. But it's this little Bluetooth thing, charges with USB-C. It has an SOS button that apparently works regardless if there's a phone connected or not, which that's kind of cool. So you hold that down and it will do a similar like coordinated with search and rescue team thing that Apple does to find you, you know, stranded while you're hiking or whatever. I don't know anything about the company they partnered with for that, which is called Overwatch and Rescue. Not related to the video game, as far as I know.
I was choosing to believe it was, just cause.
Yeah. So seems like a neat thing. One thing I noticed is that the app for this on the App Store, H&D did actually check the box to enable it for all platforms. So this does work with Mac right now. So, you know, if you're taking your MacBook with you hiking, you can text people on it.
Hey, why not?
There's
literally no reason work.
This is what I tell all the companies: don't check the box. Like, let me put the iPhone app on my computer. Why not? Let me use it. The I couldn't tell. It sounded like you need people. They didn't mention how either people get the messages. You have to install the off-grid app, and there's like a messaging interface in there. So I assume they also need to install the app. Anyone you're going to talk to, it's not over like SMS. Um, and there's a they have two plans. One of them limits how many messages you can send, and it's based on the length of the message. So if you send like an average number of messages, they say it's about like 350 messages, like in total back and forth with check-ins. And then there is a more expensive plan that is unlimited messaging. And so the pricing for this is that the little thing costs $200. And the subscription for it, the one that limits the number of messages, is $80 a year with a one-time $20 activation fee. And then the unlimited plan is $140 a year with a $10 activation fee. So if you're getting this and the base plan with the activation thing, it's like $300. Which that's a lot, so it's going to limit the number of people who care about this, but like everything that does this costs a lot of money.
Yeah, I was gonna say
So
that it's normal for these things to be pretty pricey, so I don't hate it.
yeah.
As long as it's got pretty good signal strength, like, compared to the whole iPhone situation where you had to tilt your phone to get it like perfectly lined up with the
Yeah.
satellite. Like if
I
this
don't
doesn't require that sort of fiddling, and if this works better in, let's say, bad weather, then yeah, this would be well worth it.
Yeah, I think just the fact that like I know there are also standalone solutions like this, but a lot of those use like the higher up Earth orbit satellites.
Mhm.
Whereas this one's kind of weird because it's using like pretty normal, like just the slightly modified phone hardware that lets like the Pixel phones and the iPhones use satellites.
Mhm.
Um, so maybe it does need you to like point in a slightly weird direction. I don't know. Um, the a couple of things jumped out to me is number one, it has a USB-C port for charging, and the battery life they said is 3 days,
Yeah, I saw that.
and that seems concerning to me. That's like if you go on a weekend hike and you get lost on the last day, you might be in trouble. Uh,
Yeah,
so
but if it, I'm going to argue that if you're going on a multi-day hike, you probably should be bringing like just a battery bank with you.
yeah,
Nothing big or
I
extreme, but just
yeah.
something big enough.
Yeah, and in theory, this can charge from anything because it's USB-C.
Hmm.
But yeah, that part was a little bit iffy to me. Again, also I don't know how the app works. But this isn't Motorola also made a thing like this using the same technology. So this is just a option that exists now alongside phones that have this built in, which are still rare, and all of these sort of older standalone things that are bigger and equally, if not more expensive. Because Apple also did roll out two-way messaging over satellite with iOS 18.1, I think it was, or just iOS 18. But that does require you to have an iPhone and the people you're talking to either be using iMessage or be on one of the carriers where Apple has worked it out, where they can send like SMS messages through it. So this is this if you can afford it, probably makes is more I don't know if reliable is the right word, but like more predictable. Like, does the person I'm talking to have an iPhone near them? If not, then maybe this is for you.
Yeah. And now that I mentioned battery banks, and you mentioned that anyone could make one of these things, presumably, I now find myself thinking clearly the smart product to make next is a battery bank with this built into it. because then you just have a larger device that is guaranteed to have
Mm.
unbelievably long battery life, and it would be a physically
Or
larger device that also has more room for antennas.
I just now thought of this, and it's brilliant, and I don't know why they didn't do this. This is a little tiny thing. Battery lasts for 3 days, so presumably it's using basically no power. Uh, why didn't they just put a solar panel on it? Make it a little bit bigger. Put a solar panel on it.
Uh, yeah.
Riddle me this.
At that point,
I know.
I think it should just be
I
a battery bank, but yeah.
Yeah. I know that it seems like the goal here with the little hook was like this just goes on a keychain
Yeah.
or like your backpack loop or whatever. But
Yeah, I'm imagining this is probably like the size of maybe an oversized car fob.
yeah. Or they could.
I wish they had.
They could.
Yeah, I wish any of these photos actually had like a reference for size. You know, like a banana or something.
Yeah. Yeah. The specs page has a diagram of it with measurements, but it's not a comparison. Yeah, I do think also would have been fun if they made this but with MagSafe, so it just plops on the back of the phone you're using it with. That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah.
But also that might fall off in emergency situations. So maybe the key hook is the better strat.
One, emergency situation. Two, I wonder if magnets might actually interfere with it.
Maybe. It would definitely make it thicker at least.
Yeah, maybe not. I don't know. You can do pretty small or pretty thin magnets to work with MagSafe. Regardless, yeah, this is a neat thing. I like that it exists. I'm not gonna rush out and get one, but oh hey, more pictures of it. But yeah, it feels like they could have done a little bit more. Just a few more design tweaks that adjust it to fit a few more use cases. Maybe turn this into, dare I say, like a multi-tool kind of thing too, where it could be useful as multiple other things and not just a single use item. Again, kind of reaches back to that battery bank idea.
And also this is very clearly designed to be like a yearly sub that's annoying and expensive to remove and sign up for again. So this is really only if you're like going off the grid frequently.
Also, why
it'd be cool to have one of these that's like, I know it's like difficult to work out economically, but like one of these with like a one-time thing of like, give me a week for $50 or something. I don't know.
Yeah, some part of me just wishes somebody would come up with one of these that's a straight up like no subscription required. You just maybe you have to pay to activate or something, but once you've activated, no subscription required. You just pay as you use it. That's it, because that's what most people actually need to do. And I know there are economic reasons, we've discussed some of them here, for why that's not really likely to happen. Right. But
the satellites don't grow on trees.
Yeah,
you gotta pay all the people in the call centers that call 911 for you.
But yeah, the other side of it is, imagine you're one of those people who only would go out on any sort of excursion like a few times a year. You don't want to pay for a long subscription or any subscription at all. You're probably not going to use it, but you'd be willing to buy the hardware. And in that one instance where all of a sudden you need it, man, you know what? I'd be willing to pay $5 a message. At which point they make their money back.
Yeah, well, Apple, extended the free usage for their satellite services, so we're gonna find out soon how much Apple will charge for their thing, which will be very interesting to me, because I would really like to see, after Apple doing years of like every Apple event starting with like the iPhone satellite saved my life, and just several years of that and all the good press they've gotten, to then switch to I was lost in the woods for 3 months because I couldn't use the iPhone satellite because my credit card wasn't saved in my iPhone.
Yep.
So
Or
gonna find out.
somebody to write the article about my husband or wife or whatever got lost, and it was literally the day after the free trial or subscription or whatever elapsed, and now they're dead because Apple didn't extend this for another day or whatever. There's going to be some ridiculous story that certainly pops up, and yeah. Some part of me really thinks Apple might just never charge for this, or they might like bundle it into something else. So, for someone who just bought an iPhone 8 years earlier, and like, I don't think they necessarily want to keep it going for them, but for someone who has like any of their other subscriptions, I could see them bundling this in. Just so it's another reason to really incentivize people to get the subscriptions.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting for sure. And also interesting that all this tech seems unfortunately more useful than ever because we keep having all these fun natural disasters where the cell towers go down. And you need to text people.
Yes.
So that's fun.
Our crumbling infrastructure is what it is.
Speaking of crumbling infrastructure, I'm gonna complain about this again. I got a UPS finally a couple months ago. Right when I got my NAS, and I know when you get a NAS, it's like you need a UPS or otherwise you're gonna like destroy the hard drives if you lose power, whatever. And I meant to get one for a while, but I was always like, I don't really want to spend it. And that's like, okay, fine, I'll buy one. So I bought a Cyber Power thing. It's over there. My router and NAS and modem are plugged into it. And I didn't know before I bought it if it would necessarily do anything for my network or like my internet. But about a month after I got it, I did have a like 5-minute power outage. And it was long enough for me to verify that, at least in that scenario, again, depends on how much of an outage there is, I'm sure. At least at that point, my internet was still working, not just my local network, but my actual like internet connection. And I felt like God to have like everyone else in my building, no power, no nothing. Guess what? I've still got gigabit internet. And it's great. And you know what's happened since then? My power hasn't gone out a single time. I've had some power flickers where like it's just long enough for everything to reboot and my oven to not know what time it is anymore. But nothing beyond that. And I haven't got to try it out again.
Those are actually arguably worse, but okay.
It's really sad.
Those brownouts can really mess up.
Yes, those are very annoying. And I do like there was a thing, I think it was like a week ago, where I had like 2 of those back to back for some reason, and I was just in bed for when both of them was like 11 o'clock or something. And I saw my phone, I saw my lights flicker, and I was like, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I don't have to wait 5 minutes for my Wi-Fi to come back again. So that's cool. But kind of annoying that I got the UPS after I had like, since I moved here, I've had a couple really long power outages, but none since I got the UPS, of course. After I spend the money, it's fine.
Yes.
Well, like I had
insurance.
One. Yeah.
You'll need it again.
Eventually, North Carolina's power infrastructure will crumble again, like it loves to do. And the biggest one I had since I moved here was there was a crazy storm that knocked out power in a bunch of the city, and there was a tree like right outside my building. There's like a little like dog park that's has like a gate around it with a tree in the middle, and the tree got like blown in half. And it fell down onto like the gates, like the gate was all bent and everything, and my power was off for I think it might have been like 8 or 12 hours. which isn't that bad, but it was annoying because I was picking up my brother, and as I was pulling up to like, the street where my apartment, I was like, huh, why are the lights out? Like across the street.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get back, it's like, oh, there's no power. And also it was during the summer, so that means it was hot and humid without the AC running. So that was fun. Um but of course that was before I got my UPS. And now that I have my UPS, there's not been another one. So
Okay.
anyway,
Yeah.
I'm just mad.
One of these days, I really want to get a UPS again, but my previous one many years ago, it just eventually reached the point of being exhausted. It was no longer usable, so that one got retired. Now I'm actually reviewing a power station that supposedly can work as a UPS, so that might end up becoming its function, but we'll see.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I've got it pretty good now where all the networking stuff is on the UPS, and then everything else I own is super power efficient. Like my MacBook lasts a day on its own battery, and if I need to recharge it, I have like 4 more USB-C batteries. And then I can just use a car charger to plug it in again. So I'm good there.
Makes sense.
Yeah. At that point, like if it goes on that long, I would need to leave anyway to like go obtain food, probably. So yeah.
Okay, well, cool. So let's see. Are you in a urgent rush to go, or do you have like 3 minutes?
Um yeah, my food won't be ready in 3 minutes, so I can do 3 minutes.
Okay. So, for those who know, my Xbox controller died literally on New Year's Eve.
Rest in peace.
Yeah. Um, it was, I hated that controller anyway, so I'm not hating, or I don't mind this too much. Anyway, so I bought, coincidentally, a few days earlier, I ordered an 8-bit dough. I don't know if that's how it's supposed to be pronounced. Maybe it's 8-bit do. Who cares? Anyway, I ordered a controller from them. This is a PlayStation layout controller, which you can tell because it has both thumbsticks down here at the bottom instead of the janky, weird thumbsticks being, as I point to the wrong spots.
Right.
Yeah. So whatever Microsoft was thinking, yeah, I don't like it. Anyway, so really quick observation. So far I haven't even plugged this thing in. I haven't used it, but really quick observations. One, this thing is, I think actually it's smaller, but it's I think slightly heavier than the Xbox controller without battery in it. Notably, I've never put a battery into the controller. I noticed the buttons have a surprisingly short throw to them. I'm not complaining about that. I think it'll just take a second to get used to. The one thing, and Curvy, if you're listening, you're gonna jump on this. The one thing I did notice is these sticks are the shortest sticks that I have ever felt on a controller that is meant to be like a full-size controller. So, I don't know how I'm gonna feel about these, but I have a funny feeling I might end up actually picking up some of the control freaks to go on this. We will see, but yeah, that's possibly a thing. Also,
Are those like extensions for the joysticks or like replacement joysticks?
they're extensions. They basically just clip
Okay.
on and sit on top and add
Okay.
like I don't
Right.
know, 3-4
It,
millimeters or something
yeah.
in height.
It's like when I had my old chair and I had the arm cushions on top.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, I guess, but thumbsticks. Um, and also this has more buttons, which I'm looking forward to seeing what use I can get out of those. There's 2 buttons here flanking either side of the thumbsticks, and there are rear buttons in the handles. So I'm looking forward to, especially in Overwatch, being able to ping enemies without taking my thumb off of the movement thumbstick so I can hit the D-pad. Now I can actually just ping somebody with one of these. So yeah, really looking forward to a few little advantages. Otherwise, I don't know how well this thing works. I will find that out.
Yeah, I had one 8-bit Do controller a long time ago, but it eventually stopped working. Um, and I've been I have thought about like getting another one just because like I don't have right now a controller that like really works all that well with multiple devices. The Xbox controller is really annoying to pair and repair, and I have my Switch Pro controller, but like that like isn't really supposed to work with things that aren't the Switch. Like it's fine, but like it's not really intended for that. Same with like Switch Joy-Con. So I'd like to like find a different solution there for the few times I do want to use a controller. Just haven't done that yet. So
Yeah, and yeah, that's certainly one good thing about these is they're pretty, as I understand it, they're pretty flexible about working across almost any device, except this won't work on a
yeah,
PlayStation because, of course, Sony had to be a dick about that. But otherwise, yeah, this seems like a pretty good controller for most general purposes. And I kind of
yeah,
figured like if I get a gaming rig built anytime in the near future, this will be useful for that too. The one drawback, which this is basically a drawback for all non Xbox controllers, cannot do wireless. There's no wireless support on this, I think, at all. Or actually, I might be wrong in that. Maybe this works on Bluetooth, but would only work with like Android phones and stuff like that.
right.
I actually guess I should check. I don't remember, but yeah, at least with Xbox is only you can only use it wired, which I have coming tomorrow. Some extra long USB cables. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's my solution to this. Not that I need
yeah.
cables that long, but I figured I'd pick them up for a few bucks. May as well get some. I also
Get
have
that
well, go ahead.
low latency connection. Don't have to think about batteries. That's always nice.
Damn right. I also have coming tomorrow a new wireless keyboard. I will talk about this more next week, including reasons why I picked the one that I did. But it was time to replace the Magic Keyboard for a few reasons. I'm going to be actually basically handing this off to somebody else. But also because, yeah, I wanted a new one that's a little more consistent with typing. And so I picked up a Logitech MX Mini or MX Keys Mini, something like that. I was going to get a new Magic Keyboard with Touch ID and USB-C charging, but for several reasons I decided against that. And that's what I will get into next time. But
So
looking
did
forward
you?
to that.
I think you bought the keyboard I just replaced. If it's the MX Keys Mini, because I replaced mine. Like it still functionally works, but I have like the paint is peeling off some of the keys, and there doesn't seem to be a good way to replace that because of course not. Um, so, but I've had it for a really long time, and it was fine.
Okay, so pasting the link in, you can tell me if that's the same one. And for anyone who's watching, you can see on screen, this is the one I am getting. And this is specifically the Mac configuration.
Yeah, I think this is what I think this is like this is a slightly updated version of what I had.
Okay.
So yeah, yeah, but yeah, it was fine until the key started peeling off. But
yeah,
I did
which
get
does seem to be a common problem with Logitech stuff. It just starts getting really ugly. I've had a few Logitech keyboards that they aesthetically degraded faster than they functionally degraded. And I still would use them, but yeah, they eventually they definitely degrade. Like they have a life on them.
Yeah, so I did ask family for Christmas for a new keyboard. So I did get the Logitech. This is the Pop Icon keys. This is one of their cheap ones. It's like $30, I think.
I think I even looked at that briefly.
Yeah, but it is plastic, so not not metal. Um, it also has no backlight, but I don't care because I don't use the I had the backlight off most of the time on my keyboard. Like I just don't need it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got the same. It's not rechargeable. It uses normal. These are triple A's, but like I could use rechargeable triple A's, and these last forever, so I don't care. And also, this is regular Bluetooth, not the. It doesn't support the Logitech Bolt thing, but it will still pair to the Bolt adapter. So
Oh, okay.
I can still have my mouse, which is Bolt slash Bluetooth, and the keyboard on the same dongle on my USB switch. So when I switch from my Mac Mini to my gaming PC, it's all still connected and working. So that's fine. Um, but this, oh, I can't get the battery door back on. Um,
Plastic.
yeah, okay, there we go. But yeah, like it is definitely like it's cheaper feeling. The keys, it is like a little bit mushier, I think, than my MX Keys Mini. But it still feels pretty good. Um, and I don't really have an issue typing on it. It's fine. Also very quiet. I don't remember if that was a selling point for this or not. But so that's definitely a far cry from some of the keywords you yelled at me for using when I'm in an audio call. And it has the same like multi-device switching thing as all their other keyboards and mice, and you can remap all these buttons. So I made one of these buttons open the calculator app, and then another one opens Gemini. And then I made the other two for rewind and fast forward because it doesn't have those on the media
Yeah.
keys. So
Yeah.
no complaints. It's fine.
Yeah, I probably should have asked around to see if anybody had this keyboard before I ordered it, just out of, I guess, safety. But I checked out a bunch of reviews. People seemed overall very happy with this. In fact, almost every review I saw was praising this over Apple's Magic Keyboards. So, granted,
Yeah.
all of them were using the Lightning version, but I'm pretty sure Lightning to USB-C, I think they changed absolutely nothing except for the port.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm
So
not.
this is mine. You can see it started wearing down on the A key there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was getting annoying. But otherwise it's fine. And yeah, this is definitely clickier, and this is more the new keyboard's more mushy, but I don't think I really have a preference there. They're both membrane, so it's like not it's very small difference.
Yeah, and for the most part, I wasn't too worried about that. I can live with, as long as it's not a loud keyboard. That was one of my criteria. I did not want something that's like mechanical keyboard, clack, clack, clack every key press.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I pretty much just wanted something that was going to be a good replacement, so that it won't slow me down, stays quiet. But there were a lot of other little considerations. One of which actually I wasn't going to go into this right now, but you mentioned the Bolt adapter. I don't have one of those, and this doesn't come with one, but it will connect over Bolt. And one of my incentives for getting or having that is every once in a while. It certainly used to be more, but lately not so much. But I sometimes review Bluetooth earbuds, and man, if anyone has ever used Bluetooth earbuds in a congested environment, oh boy, is that awful. So I I very much wanted to have something that could connect over Bolt, or in theory even the unifying receiver, anything that is not going to collide with regular Bluetooth audio.
Yeah.
So,
Well, the I wrote a whole article about this, but the Bolt adapter is actually still Bluetooth. It's just like Bluetooth with like a little bit of proprietary stuff,
yeah,
and then the unifying is 2.4
yeah,
Wi-Fi. But all those would be in the same frequency anyway. So
yeah. If I understand though, Bolt, I think it sticks to a slightly different, or not different range, but I
oh
think
yeah, it's low energy Bluetooth.
okay. Yeah, I read something about it that was, it's definitely Bluetooth, but I read something suggesting that it was somehow avoiding collision with other Bluetooth signals, as if it's like maybe sticking to a channel that doesn't get used by Bluetooth, or I don't know. I didn't spend a lot of time digging into it, but the mere fact that you can have some different options and maybe avoid some collision is actually worthwhile in an environment where I have sometimes a lot of Bluetooth stuff going.
Yeah, and I mean, I mostly had the adapter for the switching, and also so that when I was using with my PC, I could use the keyboard like in the BIOS, like to change BIOS stuff
Yep.
before Bluetooth gets a chance to kick in.
Yep. That is another
So
one of the reasons why I wanted this, is specifically to be able to do that. And I don't know if it will do this, but a small part of me wonders if I can use either a Bolt adapter or just the Bluetooth itself to connect to the Xbox, because it'd be great to have a keyboard that I could actually type with. But
yeah, you could just like have it on like the two and switch between.
yep.
Yeah. Well, I guess I could test that.
If I knew you had this, I probably would have
Okay.
bugged you to test that.
Yeah,
It won't
I
matter because I'll be able to test it tomorrow. But I
Yeah.
don't have the Bolt connector coming, but I figured
Yeah,
I'd wait to see if I needed it before I would order that.
I can check it later. But yeah, I've used the Bolt mostly just when using like a PC or something else where Bluetooth is annoying.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, so we went way longer than planned, or intended, but that's just how the RambleCast goes. That's how it got its name. So Corbin, before you go, is there anything you'd like to pitch, plug, or describe in short detail?
No, I need to go pick up food now.
Okay, cheers. And as for myself, I will be back game streaming this weekend as promised, or at least assuming so, because again, I haven't actually plugged in this controller. I don't know that it works, but no reason to think it won't. Anyway, so if you're interested, come join for some Overwatch, some Marvel Rivals, maybe some Fall Guys. We'll see how it goes. And if you'd like to support the channel, there are links down below to Cash App, Streamlabs, and Patreon. Of course, huge thanks to Curvy Mermaid, Austin, Carson, David, Diablo. Y'all are awesome for being supporters of the channel. And of course, everyone here is awesome. Thank you for coming and hanging out, being in the chat room, and doing all the other good things. With that, I will see all of you in Discord, and hope you have an excellent rest of your week. Good night, everybody.
Bye.